I'm Megan, and thank you for joining me for this somatic yoga video. I'm here in the spotlight with Mr. Bones because I want to tell you a little bit about what we're working on and why today. So if you've done some of my other videos, I hope you have, and please subscribe. You'll know that I'm a lover of the pelvis. I believe that the pelvis is the center of our universe as far as physically balancing us and bringing harmony to our body. Well, there's really two muscles that start with P that can really interrupt that balance. One of them is the psoas, which has gained huge popularity lately. And the other one, which for whatever reason has not, is the piriformis. And you may be saying, why would I want to know about the piriformis? Well, if you're familiar with sciatic nerve pain, or if somebody says I have sciatic pain, very often sciatic pain is confused or misdiagnosed as what is really Piriformis Syndrome. So the difference between the two is that sciatic pain truly starts from your spine, your lumbar spine. The sciatic nerve runs from your lumbar spine on either side down both legs. So if we have some sort of entrapment or a herniation in the lumbar spine that causes issues with that nerve, that's true sciatic issues. Versus if we have Piriformis syndrome, it is a little bit easier to work with because it is actually caused by a muscular contraction. So in this case, the piriformis muscle, and I'm going to do my best here to show you what this might look like. So the piriformis muscle attaches to the front side of the sacrum. So the back side is our gluteus maximus, and both of these muscles take our leg out to the side for us. But it's going to attach there to the I'm going to put it around the tailbone just to show you. And actually this is fairly accurate because it is a flat muscle. And then it comes all the way out to the top of your leg bone here. It's actually right here, but I'm going to put it on there for a moment. So this muscle, when it's tight, can compress your sciatic nerve. Okay, let's say this is your sciatic nerve. Stay with me here. Sciatic nerve actually can sometimes go right in the muscle itself, but otherwise underneath. Either way, they seem to be a little bit too close to each other at times. So the sciatic nerve is going from the lumbar spine and right underneath that piriformis muscle. So imagine if that muscle is tight, it's going to compress the sciatic nerve, causing that same radiating pain right down your leg. Typically, you wouldn't feel it in the lumbar spine with piriformis syndrome as you would with true sciatic pain. So where both sciatic nerve pain and piriformis syndrome can cause that radiating pain all the way down the leg to the foot, most of the time with piriformis syndrome, you'll also feel some pain in the butt. Yeah, as opposed to feeling the pain in your low back. Those are just a few things to think about, but we're going to get started, and you are going to need some sort of ball. I've got a whole collection here, my very well-used dryer ball, wool dryer ball. I love those. A softer ball, and then a tennis ball. We're going to do some myofascial rolling at the end. If all you have is a tennis ball, grab a washcloth because I like to put it on top to give it a little extra padding. See you on your mat. We'll start lying down. Or on the ground, and we'll get started stretching the piriformis muscle in traditional somatic fashion, which means instead of just holding a static stretch, which is what you'll often see, we do what's called pandicuation, and we move the muscle through its range of motion, and I like to do it to the breath. Always optional, though, if you want to make this a breath-centered practice. So just come down to the ground for a moment. Let your back and spine relax. Perhaps bring your knees in and your thighs in, and just gently roll around and familiarize yourself with the low back and the muscles in and around the back of the pelvis and the buttocks. Just making some nice circles. You might even sense if anything is at all sensitive there. And just rolling your legs one way or the other. You can gently massage the backs, the hips into the ground. If there's any strain in grabbing your legs, you could put a strap around the backs of the legs as you do this. But just rolling. And then we're going to place the feet on the floor. If you're not familiar with pelvic rocking or pelvic tilting, I have lots of videos on it, but this will be a short version of showing you how to do that. Place your hands on your belly. I'm in what's called constructive rest, so my knees, my hips, and my ankles are all aligned with the ankles right underneath the knees. Legs are relaxed, and as I breathe in, my abdomen's gonna rise up, and I'm gonna lift my low back off the ground. As I breathe out, I'm gonna gently let my belly come down and press the low back and low ribs into the ground so my tailbone lifts. So I'm inhaling, and the back side will contract or shorten. The belly stretches. As I breathe out, belly contracts and low back lengthens. So we just want to find this rocking motion first. Should feel good. Exhaling into the contracted phase of front body, back body long. Inhale, back body contracted, front body long. Do 1 or 2 more rounds. Notice if your head is moving fluidly with your pelvis. This is really a tail to tongue movement. And then we'll stop and pause. We're going to take just the left leg. Bring the left leg into your body first, hand behind the thigh to your shin. It's up to you. Just take some nice easy rolls through the hip. Sort of waking up that hip joint. Feel where your big strong femur bone comes into your hip. And then we're going to take the left foot and cross it on the right thigh. We often call this reclining pigeon pose in yoga. But we'll start by just crossing the leg. And then you're going to play with taking your hand to your left thigh. We're going to do 2 different movements, and one might be more soothing for you than the other. But notice what it feels like for that back area right to the side of the sacral bone, that triangle bone. So as I inhale, I'm going to use my hand to gently press the left thigh away. And as I exhale, I'm just going to release it and let it come back to wherever it naturally wants to be. So I'm inhaling and pushing away, and exhaling and releasing. So I like to add a little bit more of the contraction. I want to feel the muscles help to move it. So what I'll do is I'll flex my left foot, and I'm going to start to try to make that move without the help of my hand. So I want my muscles to draw the leg away, and then my muscles to release. So like I said, flexing the foot, draw the top of the foot towards the shin. See if you can do it without the hand, just even if it's barely moving, and exhale, release. Notice what you're feeling, that low back, particularly right on the side by the sacrum. If it's not working, please feel free to use your hand still. And just playing with what that feels like. And then we're going to go the opposite way. So my knee is still aligned with my left shoulder, but I'm going to imagine that I want to touch my left knee to my right shoulder. And I'm going to inhale and draw that left knee across the center line of the body towards the right shoulder. And exhale, just let it release. So I'm not pushing it back. I'm drawing it towards me gently as I inhale. And now you might feel a whole different stretch back there. And exhale, just release. So you can use your hand again initially to feel that, drawing in of the knee and releasing. And then see if you can do it more with your muscles and not so much the hand and arm. So inhale, squeeze that left knee towards your right shoulder. Feel that in, you'll feel your inner thigh muscle engaged. So we want to use some of the other muscles. The more we can use the inner thigh, the more encouraged the psoas is to release. And then we let it go. And as always, you can do these 1 breath per movement. Or what I like to do sometimes is take it to that end point. Feel how my inner thigh is tightening up. Notice the stretching, the tension that I'm creating, good tension in the back line of the left leg and the buttocks. And then releasing. As I mentioned, one of these might feel better than the other. Either way. All right, and then we're going to leave that leg there. And now, just let it be wherever it wants to be. Don't push it forward, don't drop towards you. We're going to go back to that pelvic tilting. So as I inhale, I'm going to press my tailbone down, lift or arch my back away from the ground, my low back. As I exhale, I'm going to gently press the low ribs and low back into the ground, lift my tailbone. So I'm just doing the pelvic tilting with the leg in this position. And notice again what you feel in that back left butt cheek, back and forth. Keep your head still moving. And for me, this is the side where I do get this pain. So I'm really being sensitive and soft and gentle. The smaller the movements, the more that my nervous system is staying relaxed. Just a few more rocking through. And then take that left leg down. If it's comfortable for your low back to take both legs out long, please feel free to do that. If it makes your lumbar spine contract, then put something underneath your knees. Just take a few moments to breathe into the two sides, from the toes to the hips. Just sensing. So the sensing is part of the reprogramming. It's like we reset our GPS. Notice if the two sides feel different. And then we'll be doing the same thing on the right side. So bending knees, place the feet on the ground. Bring your right leg in towards your body. You can use your hands to help bring it in, but then see if you can just gently move that right hip around, or think of moving your thigh bone in the socket. Really easy and slow, moving from the hip. I'm not using my lower leg kicking around. The lower leg is relaxed. Toes and ankle are relaxed. Just familiarizing myself with the hip crease area, front and back. Noticing what different sides of the pelvis are stretching out, the abdomen, the outer hip, the back side. And this time crossing the right ankle on the left thigh. So I'll start with a relaxed right leg. Left leg is supporting the right leg. As I breathe in, I'm going to gently press that right leg forward. So it almost feels like I'm making space in the front of the right hip crease. In fact, that right pelvic bone might sort of tilt towards the front of your mat. And then just release it to wherever it wants to go. Inhale, push it away. And exhale, release. So because our arms are strong and they might be able to take it to a further endpoint than our muscles will, just go really easy. So one or two more perhaps with your hand. And then let the arm relax. Maybe flex this right foot a little bit. Feel how the muscles hug the bones. And now see if you can do that same movement with the muscles in the leg. Exhale, release. Inhale, draw that right knee away from you, keeping the knee more or less lined up with the shoulder. Exhale, release. I like to flex the foot, draw the top of the foot towards the shin, push that thigh bone away, and then just let it go. Notice the muscles that are helping you to make this movement. One more, drawing the leg away, and then we'll switch that pattern. So now I can take my right hand, and as I inhale, I'm going to imagine trying to touch my inner right knee to my left shoulder. I'm going to come across the midline of the body. Ooh, what did we find there? I found something. I'm not sure what yet. And then release. Inhale, use your hand, draw it over. Exhale, release. So we're finding a little bit of the range of motion with the helping right hand. And then see if you can do it with your leg muscles. So relax the hands and arms. Inhale, squeeze that right inner knee towards the left shoulder. And exhale, release. Once again, you may find that either going away or going towards the body, one or the other might feel better for you. And just honor that. Or you can stop, as I like to do, and hold. I can feel my inner thigh muscle lighting up. It's working. Giving that back buttocks area a little more opportunity to stretch, because our muscles like to work in pairs. I like to think that my buttocks muscle and my piriformis is now saying, all right, inner thigh, you got this. I can relax. And then let that go. We'll keep the leg there. We're going to go into our pelvic tilting on this side. So now keeping the right leg on the left. As you inhale, let your back arch, tailbone into the ground. Belly rises. Exhale, draw the navel center down into the ground. Press low back, low ribs into the ground. Lift your tailbone slightly. So I'm rocking the pelvis, back into the ground on exhalation, and forward and up on inhalation. Think of the pelvis like a bowl, rocking it back and forth. Just notice how that feels for your hip crease, for your right buttocks area. See if your head goes along for the ride. So tailbone moves, tongue moves, or I like to think the nose likes to follow the tail. One more round. And then uncross that right leg. Take the legs long again. Shake them out for a moment. Let them go. And pause. Now we're going to take the legs up again. And you're going to widen the knees all the way to the edges of the mat. And I'm going to leave my right leg just where it is. I don't want that leg to flop. I want to keep my kneecap up towards the sky. My heels are slightly wider than my hips. I'm going to feel my inner thigh muscle now. As I inhale, I'm going to imagine drawing my inner thigh towards the ground, inner knee. And a little bit more of a rotation for the hip, so I can feel this a little bit more in the outer hip, but I'm going to reach that left thigh bone forward, so this is internal rotation. And then as I exhale, I come back. So this is the opposite of what the piriformis muscle would take the leg out to the side. That tightens it. So we're going to draw that leg inward. As I breathe in and exhale, gently come back onto the sole of the foot. Because this is somatics, there's a few other things I like to add on, because even though the pelvis is the center of our universe, the other parts of the body want to play too. So as I'm drawing that thigh bone inward on inhalation, I might reach my left hand overhead and look over my left shoulder, let my neck gently turn. Exhale, come back to center. Inhale, arm slides over, head turns, leg goes in. Feel that nice arch through the back side of the left side of the body. Exhale, back. Always the opportunity to stop and hold, but it's that moving in and out too that helps to reset the muscle length. You're going to lengthen and stretch and tighten the muscles, and then just completely release them. That's the pandicuation. And if you're not completely releasing, instead of taking the extra breaths on the inhale on the active phase, take some extra breaths on the exhale on the relaxed phase. One or two more if you'd like. And coming back. Now we're going to bring the legs together so the big toe side of the feet are touching. You're going to take that left leg and cross it on top of the right, just like you're sitting on a chair. As best you can, get the back of the left thigh onto the front of the right thigh. You can even kind of move your thigh out of the way there a little bit. Just let it dangle for a moment. And then you want to feel your right foot, make sure it's solid on the ground, right about in the center of your tailbone, and take your arms out to the sides. You can bend your elbows, but just to help to keep your shoulders stable on the ground. Shoulders relax, neck and jaw relax. Now feel that right foot and feel the pinky toe side of the right foot. And as you breathe in, let your legs fall onto the pinky toe side of the right foot. Legs will fall to the right. And exhale and come back. So we're starting to create a little bit more of a rotation through the pelvis. Pelvis is rotating to the right, just as far as you can go comfortably, and come back. As with all of these practices, if any of these you feel that sudden hitch or like what we would say is a nerve pain, a shooting pain, sharp pain down the leg, then just stop. Or ask yourself, are you breathing through it? Some of the important questions we say is, do I feel comfortable or do you feel scared? That's important too, because there's the physical component of these movements. There's also the emotional component. So if you're doing this and you say, little discomfort, but it's okay, I can work through it, that's different than having that pain happen and feeling frightened or thinking that you're hurting yourself. So how you respond to the sensation is just as important as the sensation itself. And going back and forth, you can always stop and hold. And then coming back to the center. I'm going to keep this crossed just for a moment, and I'm going to go back into the pelvic tilting. So now I'm going to inhale, arch my back, and feel that curve in the low back, that lumbar curve. As I exhale, I'm going to press low back, low ribs down. You can start with that, just that. Draw the navel center in, but what you can do is inhale and arch, exhale. Draw the legs in, nice big stretch for the back of that left butt cheek. Inhale, arching. Exhale, curling and drawing the legs in. And this time I am just going straight to using the strength of my legs. Sometimes you'll see people grab their legs. It works, it's still stretching, but the idea of contracting and releasing the leg muscles, the low back muscles, the abdominal muscles, that's all part of resetting. So I think as I inhale, I'm stretching my belly. As I exhale, I'm drawing my belly in, contracting that whole space from navel center to pubis to my two hips. So that is stabilizing while the low back and the piriformis stretch. Inhale, belly fills. So it's not the arms doing the work. It's the pelvic muscles and the leg muscles doing the work. But then again, it might be nice to stop and take a little hold. And you could do that. You could even roll around like we did in the very beginning. If it feels comfortable and you want to get a little bigger stretch, you can gently draw the knees away from one another to opposite sides. Some people like to grab the ankles, or some people can even grab opposite feet. Doesn't mean you're more of a hero or heroine. It just, if it feels good, you can do it. And uncrossing the legs once again. Take them out long, maybe something underneath your knees if you'd like. And just pause. You can jelly roll the legs a little bit. Feel left and right side. Always checking in, locating and landing each time. Reset your GPS. Okay, second side. So knees are going to bend. If we're working with the right leg now, you're going to widen your feet to the edges of the mat. So your heels are wider than your hips, so that way your inner right thigh or knee won't crash into the left thigh. Left thigh is going to stay where it is, kneecap pointing up towards the sky. Feel the big toe side of your right foot. As you breathe in, gently tip onto the big toe side. Draw that right femur bone towards the front left corner of your mat. And exhale, come back. Inhale, taking it in. So this is internally rotating that thigh, your hip, and exhaling back. See what it does for you. You might start to feel the stretch even through the right rib cage. If you want to add on to that. As you're breathing in, slide the right arm overhead. You might even roll your head towards your right shoulder. Exhale back. Inhaling is the active phase. Hug the muscles to the bones, but also reach them long. And then exhale, back to that space of grace. Just let go. Checking to see that you're fully releasing on the exhale. If not, take an extra round of breath there. You might want to take an extra round of breath in the hold. You can still inhale, think of reaching the arm and the kneecap away from one another. As you exhale, release. And then taking that back. Now you're going to walk your feet together again so that the big toes are touching. The left heel is right about in the middle of the mat. You're going to take your right leg, cross it all the way on top of the left so that the back of the thigh is touching the front of the other thigh. So not in this pigeon position again, but all the way crossed. Pausing there for a moment. Just let the legs fall. And then you want to feel the left leg. That's going to be your stabilizing leg. Feel the foot. Feel the pinky toe side of the left foot. Take your arms out to your sides. And as you breathe in, let the legs fall over to the left. You can come onto the pinky toe side of the right foot. As you breathe out, come back to center. Inhale and letting them come to the side, just slightly engaging. And exhaling back. Remember too, what we're trying to do is release the muscle, or sometimes I even think just move that piriformis muscle just so that it's not sitting right on the sciatic nerve in a way that's aggravating it. So it doesn't take much to do that. Just a really gentle, soothing, rocking motion. This is not a static stretch. How long can you make your muscle? Think of it more as an opportunity to just move the muscle. Maybe take a little bit different placement with it so that the relationship between the muscle and the sciatic nerve gets a little freer, a little more spacious. You can always stop and hold if that feels good. Breathe into any tightness. Breathe into it and just notice it. As you breathe out, let it go. Or just ask it. We send that invitation to let it go. We breathe in and notice, we breathe out and we let it go. We'll come back to the center. Legs still crossed. We're going to go into the pelvic tilting. So I can feel my belly breath again. I'm going to inhale onto that tailbone, lifting low back and low ribs. As I exhale, I'm going to press low back, low ribs into the ground, lift the tailbone, draw in through the navel center. Inhaling and arching the back. Exhaling and curling. And I'm going to start with just that, keeping the feet on the ground. If I want to get a little bit more active, I'll inhale into the arch, exhale as I curl and draw the legs in. Think of my front abdominal muscles shortening and contracting, drawing those legs in. Inhale, feet to the ground or left foot to the ground and arch. Exhale, curl in. Always remembering just to do what's appropriate, what feels good, right? Or if there's a little bit of discomfort, that's normal, but just not that shooting pain. You might be finding new muscles in your body, refamiliarizing yourself. Always the option to stop and hold and just be in that place where you are. You can hold the legs, you can hold just your shins, draw them up further, take your hands to your ankles or your feet if that's available, maybe rocking or rolling on the low back. And then uncross, take the legs long. You can pause for a moment, shake them out. We have one more that we're going to do reclining. And this one's a little bit simpler. It kind of goes into what we call a twist in yoga, but I do it opposite of the breath. So if you're used to a regular yoga practice, we're going to twist on the inhalation. We're going to leave the right leg long and bring the left leg in. And the best way to start is with the left foot on the ground. Just leave it there. If you can't reach your left thigh, you can just get a hold of the hip a little bit, and we're going to rotate to the left just to see how that feels. So feel like lifting your left ribs on inhale, and exhale and take them down. So if that comes easily, like you can even push into your left foot to get over there. Then what we do is take the left foot to the right thigh, so you can get a hand to the left leg. As you inhale, rotate over to the right, and exhale, come back. So we can either just keep the foot on the floor and push a little bit to find that rotation of the pelvis, feel the stretching through the left side. You might even push your right leg into the ground to find that, so that's one way to do it. You're activating the right leg to lift through the left butt cheek, or again, placing the left foot on the thigh, right hand to your left leg, rocking into the twist on inhale, and coming back on exhale. Typically, we keep our arm out to the side, left arm, and I'm rocking only as far as I'm lifting the left hip and stacking on top of the right, but I'm not letting the left shoulder lift up. I'm going to keep the left shoulder on the ground. So the shoulder blade stays grounded. You can edge your head looking over the left shoulder. So super simple twist, just coming in and out of it. Inhaling, actively twisting, and exhaling, coming out. You can also do this one without your hand, so you would normally see it with your hand taking the leg over. But use your inner thigh muscles, use that right leg. The more the piriformis senses other leg muscles and pelvic muscles working, it gets that message that it can relax. Something else is doing the job. And then they all relax on the end of the exhale, or if you want to take this one and hold it for a few breaths, please feel free to. Just want to make sure your foot's not just hanging in the air, so resting it either on your thigh that comes to the ground comfortably, do that. Perhaps putting a block or something underneath it. And then coming out. Relaxing again. And we'll go right into the second side. So take your left leg long and let that relax, shake it out. Feel your right foot. Right now it's to the inside of the left leg. And I'm going to kind of push into my right foot, push into my left leg to lift that right hip up on inhale, just starting to feel the rotation. And exhale, release. And notice there's the two ways we create force. We can push into or pull away from. So as I push into my right leg, I'm really feeling a little bit more action in the outer hip. You might even feel that right butt cheek tighten a little bit. But then notice if it relaxes. So it's okay to take it tighter because the whole thing is either way you're moving it. Or tightening it and releasing it. Or you can go to foot on the thigh, left hand to the right knee. And as you breathe in, rock that leg over. You can use your left hand to help you. Keeping right shoulder blade on the ground. Exhaling back. Just gently rocking in and out of the twist, even if it's a little bit, right? Exhaling, letting that right butt cheek land. Inhaling, lifting it up. Feel that stretch all the way across the back of the right hip. Exhaling, landing. If it's going well, you can take your arms to the ground and use your leg muscles. Press that left butt cheek and left leg line into the ground to take the right leg across. See how that works? Think of pushing into the ground with the left leg and lifting up or pulling away from with the right leg, right hip. Again, the option to stop and take a hold. This is a nice little stretch for that piriformis muscle. Just be sure that your right leg isn't just hanging in limbo somewhere, either resting on your thigh or putting a block underneath the foot, the knee. Take the leg back. Both legs out long for a moment, just taking a few breaths. And we're going to come up and do a few seated postures. We'll pause for a moment before we do that. And you can either do these seated on the ground or in a chair. I'm going to stay on the ground. I'll also show you what it would look like in a chair. And the nice thing about all of these practices is that if you don't have time to do the complete practice and you just remember one part and it feels the one part that feels the best for you, I always think that we're going to remember what we need, then just do that. So this is a very accessible stretch for the piriformis that you can do in a chair at work. But I'm going to show it on the ground and in the chair. So we'll come into a seated position. If in your seated position you feel like you're grounding your spine, then what I suggest you do is take a blanket, a bolster, something, put it underneath you with the corner facing forward, and scoot yourself right to the edge. So what that'll do is if I'm sitting in the middle of the blanket, I can still round, but if I scoot myself to the edge, it's going to keep my pelvis in more of a neutral position, and that's where I want to be. I don't want it to be tilting way back, so that's going to hold me up there. And then from there, we're going to take, let's see, we've been starting with the left leg. Let's stick with that plan. You're going to take your left leg, and I try not to use my arms as much as possible because I want to use my leg muscles, but I'm going to bring that left leg in. If you need to use your hands to help, do that. See if you can cross it on the right leg. So you're seeing why we're doing this one last, because it's a little more work, I think. And I can continue to hold my left leg with my right hand on the foot, the shin, whatever works for you. we basically did the same movement. Oh, by the way, if you've got tightness through your hamstrings, then you also may want to put, I apologize, but you may want to put a blanket or something underneath the right knee. Keep the right knee bent. So it may look something more like this, and that'll also get that thigh a little bit closer. Okay. So from this position, I want to flex both feet, and notice how when you draw the tops of the foot towards the shin on both feet and push the back of the right leg line into the ground, you feel your muscles activate. They're going to squeeze the bones. And I'm just doing that first. I'm going to inhale, squeeze the muscles of the bones by drawing the feet back, and then exhale and release. And then I'm going to add on to that. I'm going to squeeze, and I'm going to gently push that left knee, outer knee, towards the ground and come forward just a little bit. Exhale, release. Inhale, activate and push, maybe a little bit of forward motion, or you might just do the push and stay more upright, shoulders over hips. Or you can make it active and come forward. But as we come into the forward tilt, we want to have those muscles active and then release. So the piriformis will stretch more if something else is stabilizing. So more of an active stretch coming in and out of it. But you might find a place where you just want to stop and hold it. You can see how it looks in a chair as well. And then releasing that one. And then just as we did when we were down on the ground, we can also go the opposite direction. So now I'll start by using my hands. My left hand will help to move the leg. The left leg, I'm going to inhale and bring that leg across. So left knee towards the right side body, and release, and bring it across. And first I'm just moving with the leg, activating the legs. But the other thing you can do is you can begin to add a little bit of a rotation on the inhale. So I'm going to turn my body slightly to the left as the left knee goes to the right, and release. Inhaling into the twist, drawing the leg across. So now I'm going to use my right hand, or no hands. I'll use my muscles to do this. All depends. You can also do it, your foot tends to slide to the ground if you're not doing it in a chair. Just finding that rotation. And always the option to hold. And then coming back. We've got one more for this left leg, and I refer to it as Z-sit. So you're going to uncross the leg, and then you're going to let your weight come into your left hip. Take your left knee into a bent position. Take your right leg behind you, and we don't want it straight because you'll get a big stretch through your thigh. If you want to do that, you can, but it's nice and comfortable if I bring my right knee a little bit towards my left hip, what's that called? Your heel. Left heel. So some people will be really off balance, like your right hip might be really high up. So that's another good time to pull in this blanket that you just had, you were sitting on it anyhow, and you can put it underneath your left hip, just to get the pelvis more balanced in position. And I want to just sit for a moment, and then when I'm ready, I'm going to inhale and come forward over that left leg, and exhale, come back up. So this is a version of what we call Pigeon Pose in yoga. But recognize that it's your weight of your body that's creating that stretch through the back left butt cheek. So go really easy. And again, I'm engaging slightly on the inhale by pressing, this time, the pinky toe side of my left foot into the ground. And push that pinky toe side down so my leg is active as I come forward. And exhaling and coming back up. I will let you know that if you have true sciatic pain, this is probably not the pose for you, because any forward folding pose is going to put compression on the discs. And if you know that your sciatic pain is caused from any sort of disc herniation or entrapment, then forward folding is generally not advisable. Just depends how you feel. So going in and out of this, you can always stop and hold. And that's a way that, again, you'll know if it's Piriformis syndrome, because this will feel really good, perhaps, hopefully, stretching that muscle. Get to stretch your glutes, too. And then we're going to keep this position. We're going to do a little rotation. So now I'm going to let my right hip come up. I'm actually going to remove this blanket, but you can keep yours there. As I inhale, I'm going to take my right hand to my shoulder. I'm going to lift the right hip and rotate to the left. Let my head come all the way around. And exhale, let that right hip sit back down. And I'm rotating on inhale, looking over the left shoulder, bringing my right elbow forward, exhaling down. Inhale, lift the hip, rotate the spine, feel that little stretch through the left side. Exhale back. You can continue to move through this, or as we did in the last one, hands might come to the floor and you can hold right here. You might come down to your forearms if that's comfortable for you for a little hold. Breathing and sensing what it feels like, and then also what your reaction is to what it feels like. Wherever you are, we'll come back up. Slowly come up, take the knees up, take them out in front of you, maybe shake them out a little bit, just jelly roll the legs. And pause and feel the two sides from your toes through your hips. Check it out and ask yourself, are you going to regret this tomorrow? It shouldn't be anything that we feel like we're going to regret. And then going into the second side with the seated pigeon, so you may be doing this in a chair. I would take my right leg, trying not to use my hands. I'm going to cross it. I might have to eventually take my hand there, but I'm going to use my muscles to bring the leg in. I'm going to engage the muscles by drawing the top of the foot towards the shin, pressing through the heel, and then your left hand can stay on the foot, it can come to the shin, whatever works for you. I'm starting tall. So if you do have that issue with not being able to forward fold because it's creating compression in the discs of the spine, you're staying upright, and you can just work from here too. You can press that right knee down on inhale and release, so we don't have to come forward. So this pose is still potentially doable for you. But if it feels good to get a little bit deeper into the stretch as you push that knee away, oops, I'm forgetting to release. I'm going to activate here and then release. As you push the knee away, you can also bring your torso forward. And what I try to be cautious of doing when I come forward is that we've got two places to bend from. One is the lower hinge here at the hip crease. The other one is the upper hinge at the waist. And I'm folding myself from the lower hinge, so not rounding my back, just a slight bit lengthening through the whole spine as I come forward, and then releasing. If that left leg's not happy because of hamstrings, remember you might have a blanket underneath you, make it softer. It's all just an exploration. And part of that exploring is, what do we say to ourselves when we feel things in our body? You can stop and hold if that feels good. And then we'll go the opposite way. I'm actually going to remove this, but you can keep yours there. So think of bringing the right knee towards your left shoulder as we did on the ground. Your foot might touch the ground. You can use your hand to help initially. So bring it up and in as you breathe in, and exhale, just release it, point back to its point of relaxation. Inhaling and coming in, exhale, releasing. I can use either hand to help me, or I can do the hands-free model. Bringing it in, I think of gently pressing the big toe side of the foot into the ground, and then releasing. This one will get a nice little stretch into your tensor fasciae lata in that outer hip too. You might be feeling that. And then if you want to add the twist, as you inhale, Feel your lungs, feel your ribs expand and rotate to the right as the right knee comes towards you. Exhale, release. Inhaling, drawing knee towards your ribs and rotating. Exhaling and releasing. Last one, or you can take it into a hold. And releasing. We'll go into that Z sit, and your right leg will be your front bent leg. So uncross first, and then take your right leg into that bent position. You're going to take your left leg back. It might start back here somewhere, but see if you can slide the left knee a little closer to the right heel. If you got that, that's great. And if you're way off kilter, that left hip's already really high, then take a blanket or something to sit on to lift the right hip up to the height of the left hip. So you feel a little more balanced in the pelvis to start. I'm there, and I'm going to feel out this right hip. And I'm going to lift up on inhalation, push my pinky toe side of my right foot into the ground so the leg muscles are active, and just gently fold forward on the exhalation. Again, folding from the lower hinge at the hip crease. Inhaling, lifting up. Exhale, pinky toe, outer shin into the ground and coming forward. Release. Excuse me, I got my breath wrong. Lift up. And then inhale forward, active. Exhale, release. This goes against my traditional yoga breath. We generally come into forward folds on an exhalation. But I find that when I'm doing my somatic practice, I pretty much stick with the active phase, unless I'm doing core work. The active phase, I feel, is the inhale. I'm doing something. The exhalation is about purification, releasing, letting go. And then you might even find a place where you just want to stay there just for a few moments. Say nice things to your right butt cheek. Don't tell it it's a pain in the ass. Doesn't help. Come back up. And then we're going to do the rotation. So my right leg will stay where it is. My left hip's going to lift slightly. I'm going to take my left hand to my shoulder, right hand to the ground. As I breathe in, I'm going to lift that left hip. So I'm going to feel the butt cheek muscles and outer hip and the left leg activate to rotate me around, reach the left elbow forward, rotate the spine, and exhale back down. Inhale, lift, and rotate. Exhale, let gravity just take your bones back down. So I'm not pushing myself down, I'm falling. Inhaling and rounding. And exhaling and releasing. Head's turning too. Coming back. You can continue to move or pause, taking both hands to the front of that right thigh. Arms can be long, just pausing here. You might come down to your forearms if that's available. Just putting a little bit of weight in that outer right hip and the buttocks. If you feel like you could kind of sleep in this pose for a while, it's a good one for you. Typically, what we do is a full pigeon pose in yoga is pretty demanding on the body, so I really appreciate this half version. Get a nice subtle stretch, and I can still breathe in a way that's very sweet. Walk your hands back up. Take your legs out in front of you, shake them out. And we're going to finish, as promised, we're going to finish with the Myofascial Release today. So you've got to grab a ball, 2 balls, whatever you decided on. I always bring a few because I never know what my body's going to want that day. So like I said, I got my pink softie. I've got a tennis ball because most people have tennis balls. If you do have something harder like a tennis ball, then that's where the washcloth can come in handy. It just gives it a little bit of padding. It also holds it in place. No spiked balls, please. I'm going to do my left hip first, and I'm going to show you how I will support my right hip if need be. So coming down onto the ground, just relax and think about in the very beginning where I kind of showed you where that piriformis muscle attaches. It's to the front of the sacrum, but we're going to start with the left side. So just rock your pelvis side to side a little bit and think of the shape of your sacrum. And then whatever ball you're working with, you can to the washcloth on top. See if you can lift that left butt cheek up and get it right under there. And so you don't want to be on the bone. You want to be inside of the bone. We've got plenty of tissue there, right? In that butt cheek. I know I do. So we want to be in that tissue area, not the bone part. But what you'll see is when you do that, you're kind of tilted. So what I like to do is take a blanket and put it underneath my right hip so that I'm not leaning so far to the right. And it all depends how high. You might just put a couple inches, you might do several inches, but I like to keep my pelvis more balanced again so I don't feel like I'm falling to the right. And now anything goes. So I'm going to let, the first thing with myofascial is, how do you want to do this? So one way to do it is to literally just be still and let your weight fall and let the breath relax, and the compression will just come. We don't even have to move. So notice if you're trying to hold yourself up from the ball, because that's probably not a good sign. So I always make sure I can just release first. And then if I can release, I invite just a little bit of movement to explore different places. There's really no written rules. I tend to keep both feet on the ground. Legs long will definitely pull the low back more, so feet on the ground also helps you to move more. But one of the things you can do, since we're highlighting that piriformis muscle, is go back to a position we were in earlier, which is crossing left ankle. Oh, there we go, on right leg. Anybody out there smiling? Like, that's what I just did. So it's a whole different ball game doing this, but it gives you opportunity to move that ball around. Like I said, I usually try different balls if I can reach them. Sometimes these videos just don't come out the way I hope they do. Thanks for still watching. I'm going to put the bigger, softer ball underneath me because this is my sensitive side. It's like, all right, I still love you. I'm going to be nice. So myofascial release is just that. Remember the last word, release. It's meant to feel good and to allow you to let go. If you're tightening your jaw, your eyes, your shoulders to try to protect yourself, then you're doing too much. It should be soothing. And just rolling. Right in that, I find that square between the sacrum and the top of the hip bone, and that's right where you want to be, in that area. Just slightly down from that, but off the side of the sacrum. And you have to go through your big glute muscle first, because that's to the back side, and then the piriformis is in front of it. But remember too that just the compressive forces, so if I find a place that's more a little bit unnerving or more sensitive, I'll just stop and hold. And I don't have to have the ball right on that area. You can put it somewhere next to it. Hold and breathe. Go back to, I breathe in and I notice. I breathe out and I just ask it to relax or leave my body. Your practice, your wishes. Tell your body your wishes. So I could stay here for probably another 10 minutes, especially on this side. But for the sake of the video length, we're going to switch sides. So if you have your left leg crossed, take it down. You may still have it on the ground. That's all good. Take the ball out. Before we do the second side, just pause for a moment first and feel, as we always do, locate and land. Let both sides of the back of the pelvis fall into the ground and just sensing what the difference is. Does it feel like one hip is higher or lower? Is one sinking more than the other? Just giving your brain an opportunity to feel in between, because when we leave the pose, it's a really important part of the pose. Your brain is rewiring to feel this new sensation. And then we'll do the second side. So choose your ball. It is not a weapon. It is a tool of relaxation. You can use the washcloth, and I'm going to just first start to kind of rock side to side, feel out that right side of my sacral bone, so that triangular bone that points downward, and I want to see if I can find that inner edge, because I don't want to be on the edge, I want to be just inside of it. That's where the piriformis muscle attaches, and then I'm going to slide that ball underneath there, see if I can hit that target. And because I'm pretty falling to one side, and it's just hard to roll it that way, grab that blanket or pillow, whatever you want, and put it underneath the left hip to bring your pelvis into a position that's more level, right? Both hips at the same height. And then fall first. Just land and locate. Because if you can't do that, then moving's not going to help, because the whole idea is to let your weight go, let your muscles relax. In order to get into the myofascial tissue, the muscles have to be relaxed. And your muscles will guard you. If they feel like you're doing too much, they're going to tighten to protect you. So just letting them relax. All the way down to the foot, feel that right foot. And then if you feel like you're pretty relaxed, just begin to make some small rolling motions if you'd like. There's lots of area to explore here. This is great too if your glutes are tight. You're hitting all those as well, and that's what I'm feeling on this side, surprisingly. So you can keep both feet on the floor and use the movement of the right foot and leg, pressing your shin forward or back or in and out. Or if you'd like a little bit deeper stretch for the piriformis muscle, across the right ankle on the left thigh. And enjoy. So what I also like to picture in doing myofascial is feel your skin, because you want to move your skin, and then you want to move what's under your skin, because that is the tissue. It's the tissue between the muscle and the skin. Sometimes we can get deeper into the areas in the fascial tissue that surrounds the muscle itself. But notice just that first layer of skin moving and the fascia underneath the skin, and then go into those deeper layers. Watching that you're not holding your weight up from the ground. You're allowing the ground to hold you. No bracing. Some of those muscles can be real buggers, and they'll try to protect you, right? Exploring movement, or if you find a really sensitive spot, just be still. Allow all your weight to come into that area. You might readjust the ball. Breathe in and notice, without creating any stories or anything else. Oh, I did this when, right? It hurts me when. Just notice what it's saying, because that's how our body talks to us. It has to talk through sensation. And then breathe out and say, all right, I heard you, letting that one go. And watch for the release to show up in other areas. For instance, your inner knee or even your foot. Could be in a shoulder. The fascial tissue is like a matrix of webbing in our body, and it's all interconnected. So those releases can show up anywhere, nowhere near the area that you're rolling. That's the fun of it. And you just have to be quiet and still enough to be present and feel. Feel with gratitude. All right, we're going to come off of that side. Again, I could be there for another 5 minutes, but we're going to finish up with a short relaxation. So please take yourself into a position that feels good for you.
Now recognizing Baddha, which is a always loved pose in yoga, is actually a way to shorten and tighten the piriformis. So because I do have issues back there, I find I like to bend my knees and let my knees come together into internal rotation. That actually creates more of a stretch across that backside. So think about those things. A lot of times what we think will heal us, we think, oh boy, this feels so good to stretch my inner thighs, you're actually maybe compressing the backside, which is not what you want. But you can also take your legs out long. You might take your legs out long, and if you do, please consider putting a blanket under your knees so your low back can relax, no pulling. When you get there, just jelly roll your legs side to side or kind of bounce your knees like basketballs, just to encourage all the leg muscles to relax. Any other movements? You might want to roll your shoulders or your head around. Just going to take some quiet space. Quiet space to feel your derriere and sense your sacrum. Think of the way that this muscle is important in stabilizing your sacrum. The always loved sacred sacrum. Breathe in and notice, and breathe out. Just invite it to relax or release whatever it is that you find. Let the stillness just soothe you. Feel the weight of your bones holding your body, and the way the muscles can just rest on the bones. There's no need to move or fight your own body in the way that it wants you to just relax into the earth, particularly the back side. Breathe into the front side. Relax the back side. If your mind begins to wander, come back into your felt sense. So the mind wants to be thinking and create images. Let those images be of your body and what you feel in your body. The mind can be busy, but allow it to be busy in your body if it leaves. Feeling and sensing. Please say thank you to your wonderful pelvis, that connection point for your lower body and your upper body, for your animal instinct body and your thinker and feeler in the upper half of the body. If you would like to stay longer in this relaxation pose, you're welcome to, and I encourage it, or you could come up to a seated meditation. Otherwise, I'm going to take my hands to my heart. Thank you for joining me. Peace, joy, love, and light.